Welcome to small town Saskatchewan. This is Peebles, 3 streets and 2 avenues. 2006 was the last time they were able to count the population, and there was 20 folks here, down from 60 in 1965. At the top of the screen is the right-of-way of the Canadian Pacific's Reston sub from Reston, Manitoba, ultimately Brandon. Built this far December 19th, 1906, and paused for 2 years before pushing on to Wolseley on the main line. The portable station dropped off early in 1907 at mile 98.1 from Reston, just about where the highway access is now located. CP abandoned this rail line in 1961, and the grade was subsequently taken over by Highway 40, Regina 130K to the left. There was one elevator on the CP line, built by Interior Elevator in 1918 and sold by N.M. Patterson in 1922 and gone. And marching in from the eastern horizon there is Peebles' second rail line, built by Canadian Northern. Service started on December the 4th, 1907. The church on the south end of Railway Avenue. Canadian Pacific laid out the town site square with its right-of-way in 1906. And railway used to be busier. At the intersection of Dufferin was the heart of town. There was stores, blacksmith shops, equipment dealerships, hotel and a cafe, community hall, church and school, of course. Curling rink, north end of town. This is the last of the old garages that were on Railway Avenue. This, I think, is the new church. The old church, probably over on Minto Street, was closed in 1972. Right where Assiniboia Avenue comes up to Canadian National Trackage, there stood Peebles' second elevator, built by the Saskatchewan Wheat Pool in 1930, number 1002. It stood and served until July 8, 1989, when the roof was ripped off by a storm. CN subsequently pulled up the siding. The little freight passenger shelter just stood south of the church in here, but Canadian National didn't build it till 1927. I guess before then you just stood on the platform and flagged the train down. The station was sold off in 1969. Peebles was the CPR railhead for the year 1907 and most of 1908 as the company pushed its line 23.5 miles north to Wolseley through Barring and Deveron and Adair. Service was commenced on November the 11th, 1908, closing the loop from Brandon. It was abandoned in 1960 and the steel pulled in 1961. Panning around to look towards Regina on Canadian National's Glenavon sub from Kipling to Regina. And you can see the outlines of a Y there. The Corning Y, as a matter of fact, at mile 14.6 from Kipling. In the 1920s, CN decided it'd be a good idea to run a line over the western shoulder of Moose Mountain and down to Lampman on the Literary Line. They got as far as Handsworth at mile 22.3 in 1924-25 and quit, called it the Corning sub, and abandoned it in 1981. On Assiniboia Avenue, curving down into town, the pool elevator stood off to the right there. And this is Dufferin Street, Main Street. The first newcomers to settle on these Treaty 4 lands were Scottish folks who came in with the CPR main line in the early 1880s. The Parleys, the McFarlands. On November the 1st, 1905, A.G. Bell opened the Glenwell Post Office, likely in his homestead 2.5 miles to the northeast of here. In 1902, a sizable number of German Catholics, part of the St. Pius colony, had begun settling around Windthorst between here and Kipling. In deference to them, on July the 1st, 1907, the post office changed the name of Glenwell to Kaiser. and the railways followed suit. Looking towards Kipling along the CN line, crossing Range Road 75 west of the 2nd there. A.G. Bell resigned as postmaster and Godfrey Collett took over until 1910 when G.G. Oxford moved the post office into his store on the Peebles town site. In the fury of the Great War, the name Kaiser fell out of local favor, and on August 1st, 1916, the post office renamed the place for a town in Scotland. School District 4382 built a one-room school which lasted into the 50s and was likely replaced. But in 1970, the school was closed totally and the kids go to Windthorst. With 2 railways and a major spur, you would have thought that Peebles would have amounted to more than it did. But I guess the fact that there was only ever one elevator kind of bears testimony to the poor fertility of the glacial till that covers this part of the Kipling Plain. Though never incorporated, the community became an organized hamlet in 1950, a ward of the rural municipality of Chester, number 125, Peebles, Saskatchewan.